In this video, I'm going to show you how we can create a restaurant menu using HTML and CSS. So this leads on from the work that we were doing last time when we were looking at creating standard web pages using just HTML. But now what we're doing is we're also using CSS to actually create some style to go along with these pages. So the menu that we're going to be creating is this one here. And the instructions that I've given in the lab sheet for this suggest that we implement this first in HTML, and then after we've done that, we'll add the CSS onto it afterwards. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my folder that I had made before, and this is one that is linked up to my repository on GitHub. Now that I've got that opened, I'm just going to go into Atom, and I'm going to File, Open, and I'm going to open up that folder. So File, Open, and then it's that folder that I want to open up there. And we should be able to see, I'll just open into a new window. We should be able to see that with this, let's close that old window, and I'll close this welcome guide. We've got a few things that I haven't actually pushed up from last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to commit this up just now quickly. And now that I've done that, I'll push that up there. I'm going to create a new week. So I'll go to a file. Actually, no, sorry, I'll right click on this and do new folder, week 4. And then inside of this week folder, I'll do new file, menu activity.html. Okay, so I've created my menu activity HTML file. I've typed in HTML and it's made the file for me. But as well as this, I also need to create a CSS file for today. So I'll do new file and I'll just call this master.css. And then I need to create the link between these two files. So what I'll do is inside of here, I'll add in the title, my restaurant menu, and then I'll put in a link and then press tab, and it creates a thing. So it says that it's our style sheet. It's called master.css, but it's not inside of a CSS folder. So I'll just change that there. If it was stored inside the CSS folder, then obviously I'd put that there. If it wasn't called master, I could call it something else. Okay, first thing, let's get a header in place, and then we'll call this my Mike's Restaurant. Mike's Restaurant. And then 2, serving adequate food since 2018. Right, so that's my header, and then inside of my main, I need to create my menu. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. So I'm going to create a section, and then I'm going to put in this first thing here, which is this is called snacks. So we'll do H2 snacks, paragraph, and then I have a small salad, and that costs £3.50. £3.50. I then have mac and cheese, which costs £5. And then I've got chicken nuggets, which cost, let's just say £4.50. And I won't bother with the last one, I'll just leave that just now. Make a new section. This time it is burgers. Okay. And then we have the original, which is £9. The computer scientist, which is £11, and the hacker special, which is £12. And then we've got some dishes. So I'll finish that section off. Oops, that should be a P, that should be an H2. And an H2. And then inside of the dishes, we've got a mushroom pasta, which is, let's say, £13. Pizza pie, which we'll say is £14. And roasted vegetables, which we'll say is £9. Final section is for desserts. Eat and mess, we'll say that is £5. Ice cream, which is going to be £4. And let's say chocolate cake. And it's really good chocolate cake, so it's going to be £15. Okay, so that's the basic structure for this made. What I'll do now is I'll just use the Beautify tool to tidy that up a little bit, and I'll save that. And now I want to actually see what this looks like, so let's open it up inside my browser. Okay, perfect, so that's how the menu looks like. Now at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a commit, because I finished doing the actual basic menu structure. So we'll do created basic menu structure. Okay, because what we want to do is we want to create atomic commits. And what these atomic commits are doing is it means that if at a later stage I want to change the structure of the menu, then I can go back and just do that. So now that I've done that, now I want to really start playing around with how this is going to look. So to do that, we need to start thinking about different things like what fonts we want to use and also what colours we want to use. So to use different fonts, I'm going to go to the website Font Pair. And then on Font Pair, it actually shows you different fonts that work well together that are featured on Google Fonts. So I'm going to use, I think what I want is I want a sans serif and a serif one. So I like this, Cabin and Old Standard TT. Okay, Google Fonts. And then we'll go on to Google Fonts. And I want to use Cabin and Old Standard TT. So I'll wait for that to load. Cabin. There's the cabin text, so I'm going to add that. And I think I'm also going to take the bold version of it, just in case I want that. And then the other one is Old Standard TT. Was it Old Standard TT? Yep, Old Standard TT. So we will take the regular version and the bold version, just in case. Okay, so now that I've got all that, I can start to actually include that inside of my CSS. I'm going to use the import thing because I like it a little bit better, and I'm going to do this import style thing here. So I copy that across to my menu, I go back into Atom and then into my master CSS, and I'll put a little thing here that says add external fonts, put in that import. Okay, so now I've got that imported, I can actually use that inside of a font family, which is going to be done by using these lines here. So again, I'll copy that across into the CSS just so that we've got them here. Now we can see that inside of my menu I've got H1s, H2s and Ps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my H1 so that it's going to have the cabin font. And I'll just comment that one out just now. So we can see now that if I go onto my restaurant menu, I refresh the page, there we go, we can see the H1 is now changed, so it's the cabin font. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to set my H2 to be also be cabin font, but I want the font weight of H2 to actually be 700, so it's going to be bold. And the reason I'm being able to do that is because remember when I copied across the font, I selected the normal font weight, which is 400, and the bold font weight, which is 700. So now if I go back onto this, we can see, there we go, it's copied that across. Now we can see that with the normal font, it's actually put it as bold as well, because whenever we're using H tags, it automatically puts them as bold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this one here, font weight to 400, and we should be able to see There we go, that gets a little bit smaller this time. Okay, so now that I've done that, I want to change how my p tag looks. And I'm going to have my p tag as this old standard. And now we can see that when I change that, there we go, that's all changed as well. So I'm beginning to get my restaurant menu into shape. Now I need to start thinking about the different colours that I want to use to actually make it look pretty. So the first thing I'm going to do for this is I'm going to use the website Coolers. So with this, it's actually going to generate some nice colour schemes for me, so I don't need to really think about them in as much detail. So I don't like that one. I like that colour there, so I'll lock that one, and I like that one. I'll try again. I like that Pullman green, and I like this trolley grey. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start using these colours within my design. So this colour here, Pullman green, I'm going to use inside of my H1. So I'm going to say colour is Pullman green, which is that colour there. So we can now see that if I go across onto my menu, there we go, that's slightly changed. It's quite difficult to see, but it has changed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this trolley grey as the colour for my H2. Okay, so H2 colour is that trolley grey colour. And now when I go back onto this, we can see that there we go, it's changed all of those colours as well. And the last thing is going to be to pick a colour for my P. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to use this lilac luster. And so with that, we'll go back onto this again, colour, and there we go. Okay, now we can see that this works quite well, but there's a few problems because the colour is quite difficult to read. So I think what we're going to have to do is change the background colour as well here. So to change the background colour, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here, and I'm actually going to change the background colour for the entire document. So to do that, I'm just going to attach the body, and then go background colour. And I'm actually going to make that background colour the colour that I used for the H1. And then I'm going to change that H1 to something a little bit lighter. So this trolley grey here, I'm just going to pick a lighter shade. There we go. I'm going to use that light grey. And then we'll see how that looks now. There we go. Okay, so there's my relatively adequate menu. Obviously, it doesn't look that pretty at all. Other things that we can do, and we can actually include things from Font Awesome, and this is something that we covered a while ago. So with Font Awesome, what we can do is we can actually start to decide if we want different fonts or different icons to appear inside of our page. To do this, the first thing that we do is we actually copy across this thing here. So go into the Font Awesome website and then go into the Getting Started thing and copy this link. And then what we can do is we can actually include this link within our head of our page. And what this does is this just creates a link to the Font Awesome file, which contains all of the CSS for the different icons. And now that we've got that, we can actually start including these icons on our page. So I'm going to search for burger to see if I can find a picture of a burger. There's none. Let's see, is there a food? Let's just search for food. Okay, here we go. Here's some kind of food type thing. Let's go for ice cream. Nope, that doesn't exist. Let's go for menu. That doesn't exist either. Okay, so apparently there's not a lot of fonts to do with food. Let's see. Let's go for users and people just now. Let's just get some pictures of people in here. Okay, so let's go for the astronaut picture. So if I want to get this icon to appear inside of my menu, what I'll do is I'll copy across this link here. We just need to click on that to copy it onto our clipboard. And then we can go across here into our menu and we can start to apply it. So let's say that I actually want this astronaut to appear here, right beside my name inside of my menu title. So now I've put that there. I'm going to refresh it. There we go. Mike's Restaurant now is that beside it. Now I've also decided with this that even though I want to have the color, or I like having the font for my H2s all the same, I really want to change how it looks in terms of the snacks, burgers, dishes and desserts, because I think that that needs to be a different colour. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to apply a class to each of these H2 tags, which means I'll then be able to actually change that within my CSS. So now that I've applied a class to each of these, I can save it and go into my master, and then I can create a CSS class for menu title. And with this, what I can do is I can say change the color for that, and I want the color of that to be, let's just have it as white just now. And now when I go back onto my menu, we can see that the colours of each of these has changed to white, because that's the colour that I'd set it to, but just for that class. Okay. So now that I've done most of the styling for the colours and the fonts, the next thing that we would do would be to move on to actually doing some positioning with this and getting it to look a little bit nicer in terms of the positions. And we're not going to cover a lot of that this week, but one thing that we are going to do is we're going to change the menu so that it is a little bit more centered. And to do that, I'm just going to put in a little bit in the body that says max width, and I'm going to set that to 500 pixels. And you can see that when I refresh the page now, what it's done, if I go to inspect, is it's changed the width of the body. So we can see that the overall HTML is still the entire width of the page, and that's indicated by the blue going there. The body is only going to be 500 pixels wide, and we can see that by this blue bit here. The rest of it isn't actually being applied there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the body so that we can actually center that element as well. To do that, I'm just going to do margin left auto, and then margin right auto. Actually, to make sure that this definitely works, what I'm going to do instead is, instead of actually applying it to the body, I'm going to apply it to main, so that I'm applying it just to a single element. There we go, and I'll put that into there. So what this should do now, when I refresh the page, we can see that all of this has been moved across so that it's in the middle, whereas this stuff at the top hasn't been. Now, to get that stuff at the top to be applied over as well, what we can do is we can actually apply this or these CSS rules to multiple elements at the same time. So if I was to do header, comma, main, then this is going to apply to the header and to the main. And now when I refresh that, you can see that that's all pulled across to the middle. So that's a rough outline of how you can create a CSS menu using HTML and CSS and do some basic styling, adding in some fonts from Google Fonts, picking a color scheme using colorcoolers.co, and then using Font Awesome to actually put in some icons as well. The last thing that we want to do with this is we actually want to get it uploaded onto GitHub. So to do this, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to commit those changes, and I'm going to say added style to menu. And then I'm going to commit these things to my edits, and then I'm going to push that up to the GitHub repository. So as soon as that's up on the GitHub repository, I'll go back onto GitHub, and then I'll be able to see those changes that have happened, and they should all be within my repository, which is called AC11002 labs. So I'll go into that one, and we can see that there's 2 branches and 3 commits. Let's go and have a little look at the branches. We've got the Mike Edits branch, which was changed 30 seconds ago. Let's compare and do a pull request. Added in CSS and HTML menu for week 4. Create that pull request, and then as soon as we're happy with that, then we can merge it in. That merge has now happened, so now if I was to go back onto this, we should be able to see that the week 4 folder has appeared, and then if I go inside of that week 4 folder, the masters.css and the menu activity.html files which I've made are now inside of there.